I'm not aware of any. I don't know if the GSIs know of any. Tell me in a second if you know of any published version of this. I think it is publishable. Anyway, I highlight this partly to encourage you. If you could do it, you can do it. The objection here is very simple. The whole thing about Bloch's robot is that it contains 1 billion people, living, breathing, human people. So each of them is consenting for an hour to just pull the levers, pick up the radio in just the way that Bloch says. But does that whole thing really have the same functional structure as you? Well, of course not, because these are people. They might get bored. They might demand a raise. They might rebel against the government. They might overthrow the whole thing. You know perfectly well, I mean, your neurons can't do that. Your neurons are really dumb individually. Your neurons can't do anything but pull those levers and use those radios. So this scenario where you have Blockhead, what you've got is people there who are voluntarily for a moment mimicking your functional structure, but it doesn't at all have the same functional structure as a regular human. To get something that really had the same functional structure as a regular human, you'd have to actually replace each of these humans with something stupid. Either an actual biological cell or maybe a bit of metal that could only behave in that way. Didn't have any capacity for rebellion or doing anything else. And once you do that, you've just got either a kind of expanded version of your actual brain, which surely is going to be perfectly capable of having sensations, or else maybe a metal version of your human brain, which could equally well support sensations. So if you think about the neurons firing in the human brain, they don't have agreements. They can't withdraw their agreement to the whole situation. So Bloch's argument looks good, but there's a kind of sleight of hand in it, because it doesn't really have the same functional structure as that of the human brain. And it's only because it clearly has such a wildly different functional structure to the human brain that it seems so obvious that it doesn't have sensations. There's a lot more to say about Blockhead, actually, but that's a first pass of why it doesn't seem like it can be right. I should say it's been a very influential argument. This has been influential to this day, but there seems to be this very simple problem with it. Yeah? So maybe it's true that if you've got that functional structure, you just must have sensations. You must have pains and so on. That's plain as day? Yes?
What if you program the computer to have that kind of functional structure?
That's right, yeah.
Then how would you really couldn't tell if that computer was actually feeling the sensation of pain?
Wouldn't the computer be feeling the sensation of pain? I mean, isn't it a kind of, we talked a couple of classes ago about speciesism, where people say, well, octopuses can't really have feelings because they're so tentacly. Yeah? But similarly, people say, well, computers couldn't have feelings because they're cold, metallic, non-biological. Yeah? But that is, again, just a kind of prejudice. Is it not? I mean, if my brain got replaced bit by bit with metal, would you really say, oh, well, he doesn't feel pain? He's got one of those metal brains. He cries, he yells. If you cut him, he bleeds. But he doesn't feel pain. That would be a kind of prejudice. Right? I mean, this is Berkeley. We don't do that. Yeah. Isn't that right? You disagree about Berkeley, or?
I disagree about something metallic, something feeling anything. I don't know. I feel like if you program, there's a reason why you have these robotic structures and
Right.
feel pain, we can respond to something.
So we find a planet where the organic life forms are, if I can put it like that, made of metal. They reproduce and so on, but they're all actually made of metal. You think, no, they can't have feelings. They're made of metal. What?
I guess I just see like a difference between like a functional output versus like a mental sensation.
But that's what we're arguing about, right? That's very clear. That just begs the question. Yeah. The trouble is to articulate why that would be, and appealing to crude prejudices in favor of living organisms, if I can put it like that. That's not an argument, is it? Is that an argument? You might say calling it a crude prejudice isn't an argument against it. But put up your hand if you think a creature made of metal could feel pain. And if you're pretty clear it couldn't. And if you're not clear, okay, that's about evens, I would say. Okay. Okay. More on this on Monday when we look at this hypothesis of colours all the way around the other way.